So there's an odd but insanely effective way to use ChatGPT 4.0 to send 1,000 personalized cold emails a day. And it works so well, it almost feels unfair. Now, these aren't the boring templates everyone uses. I'm talking about emails that make prospects stop and think, holy shit, did this guy just read my mind? Now, the secret isn't just ChatGPT, it's combining ChatGPT with the right inbox setup, so you can scale your sending and stay out of spam. After studying 100,000 cold emails over the last 4 years, this is the hidden framework that consistently pulls over 9% reply rates across dozens of industries. So in this video, you'll learn exactly how to build an inbox system to send 1,000 cold emails a day without touching spam. And then you'll learn how to deploy a ChatGPT 4.0 system that can personalize cold emails better than a human ever could. And by the end, you're gonna have a complete system to land more meetings consistently from cold email. Let's get into it. Now, before we ever send a single email, we need the right email account setup. I'm talking domains, inboxes, email accounts, and the right sending platform. This is the best way to stay out of the spam filter. And PS, if you want a full step-by-step SOP on setting up domains and inboxes, I linked it in the description below. So we start by buying fresh domains. If your domain is amazon.com, buy tryamazon.com or getamazon.com. Then usually what I do is I split my inboxes by Gmail and then by Microsoft. That way, if one does have deliverability issues, the other one can keep you alive. So for every domain, I create 2 inboxes. Each inbox is going to send around 15 to 25 emails per day, depending on how aggressive you want to be. All right, so as you guys do grab new domains and new email accounts, you're going to want to put them in a warm-up phase for around 2 weeks before you actually do start sending cold emails. The platform that I like to use for this is called instantly.ai. It's very easy to connect your email accounts to instantly.ai, and then from here, just make sure that your emails are healthy, make sure that they're looking good, and then of course make sure that they are not landing in spam. Warm-up tools like Instantly are essentially going to help you build invisible trust with these email providers like Google and like Microsoft, and you absolutely need this. You can use Instantly, you can use Smart Lead, but again, whatever you choose, just make sure that you use warm-up for at least 2 weeks before you start sending cold emails. And then after this 2-week period, once you actually do start setting up these campaigns, what I would recommend is setting up your campaigns like this. So let's just say, for example, the campaign name is My Campaign. What I would always do is set up a 2-step. So you'd have step number 1, which is your initial cold email, and then you would have just one follow-up around 4 to 5 days after. That way, you're not spamming these guys. You're not actually sending, 5 or 10 cold emails to them. You're not just saying, hey, just following up. You're having a very strong initial cold email, and then you're having a very strong follow-up. And then again, if they don't reply, reach out to them around 90 days later. So this is going to be essentially your master campaign. What I would always recommend doing is setting up a master campaign with the right settings, with the right scripts. And then from there, when you do have other lead lists that you want to go after, just duplicate your master campaign. When it comes to your settings inside of your sending platform, I would always recommend disabling open tracking. It's 2025, you do not need to track open rates. And then I would always recommend sending emails as text only. No HTML, nothing like that. You need to optimize your deliverability. This is the best way to do that. And then as a bonus, I would always recommend setting up your time gap anywhere between 15 to 20 minutes. So for this, for example, I can put minimum time as 15 minutes and then random additional time. Let's just say this is at 4 minutes. Again, what we're trying to do is we're trying to kind of not have a pattern that Google or Microsoft can track from your name, from your domain, from your email account. That way you can land in the inbox a lot easier. And as we click save on our master campaign, we're going to go back to our normal campaigns. And then from here, what I would always recommend, let's say, for example, your target market includes a lot of different segmentations. So let's say, for example, you're targeting different countries, different job titles, different industries. I would not combine all of these inside of one campaign. Let's say, for example, you looked on your cell phone, your family, your gym bros, your colleagues. You would not put all of them in the same group chat. They would all be in separate group chats because the messaging is going to be different. The same thing is with cold email. So what I would do is, let's say, for example, I was targeting SaaS companies in USA, let's just say VP of marketing. And then I would set up this campaign only to this exact segmentation. And another one could be SaaS EMEA VP of marketing. It could be SaaS USA head of sales, whatever it is. Do not combine all of your leads in one campaign. You need to segment them based off of either their country, their job title, or their industry, or ideally all 3. So now that we've built the foundation, we built the infrastructure side, and then we built the campaign settings, this is extremely important because this is kind of like, if you don't do those things, it's trying to race a Ferrari without actually having an engine. So now that we've kind of checked that off, let's talk about how to personalize these emails that we're going to send so they actually get real responses. So sending 1,000 personalized cold emails sounds impressive, but if they all sound like, hey John, loved what company name is doing, things like that are actually going to hurt you and they're going to hurt your brand. Prospects can spot fake personalization from a mile away. Real personalization is relevance. And that means speaking directly to their goals, to their frustrations, and to their exact situation. It's not about sounding friendly, it's about being relevant. So really quickly, before we dive into this powerful and hidden ChatGPT system that actually makes all of this possible, we really need to understand the frameworks that actually make cold emails convert. Now, this is going to help us plug ChatGPT into this proven system. Now, what I'm about to share with you guys is not a random formula. It is based on analyzing over 100,000 cold emails. So the first thing that we mentioned is the hook. We need to open with a question that highlights their pain point. The second is their offer. We need to show you how you can quickly solve their problem. And then the third step is having proof, either a quick win, a case study, or a customer testimonial that's relevant to them. And then finally, a call to action. You need to end with a simple, no pressure next step that's very easy to say yes to. This framework is extremely powerful because it follows the natural decision-making process that all of us humans have. So it's recognize a problem, consider solutions, look for evidence, and then actually take action. So the beauty of this framework is that it gives us a proven structure that we can use to create a high converting template. This is essentially like having the blueprint for a high performing engine. Now we just need to attach this winning formula to each prospect that we're sending cold emails to. Now this is where ChatGPT 4.0 comes in. It is going to allow us to personalize every single element of this framework for every single prospect. And I promise you, this was impossible a few years ago. So what I recommend is before this strategy goes mainstream, I would get on it and I would start adopting it as soon as possible. All right, so as we go to chatgpt.com, here's going to be the prompt that we're going to be using. Let's just say, for example, we are targeting a director of marketing at a US-based company that is in the SaaS industry. And let's just say, for example, their employee size is around 10 to 50. And their entire goal is to just book more demos. And then what I would recommend, guys, and this is another cheat code, always click deep research when it comes to using ChatGPT, especially when it comes to exactly what we're trying to accomplish now, which is research. If you click this button, what ChatGPT is going to do is it is going to go to basically every single source possible and is going to get as much data for you based off of what your prompt is. So as we click go, and again, disclaimer, this might take around 15 minutes, but it is completely worth it. So as I click go, I'm going to fast forward and go to when it is ready. Oh, and by the way, if you want the multiple prompts that I'm going to be using in this video, just check it out in the description below. All right, guys, so after a couple of minutes, we essentially got all of this deep information. What ChatGPT showed us is all the frustrations of these director of marketings, all their past attempts or approaches, any sort of hidden objections, any sort of buying triggers. But the main thing that we have seen is what would essentially motivate them to take a sales call. This is absolute gold. I promise you, if you have any sort of SDRs or account executives, if they spent, they would spend 7 days, they would spend a month actually doing this. ChatGPT did it in about 15 minutes. So now once we have your audience insights, we're going to use a second prompt to craft a very strong converting email template. Now this is where the magic happens. We're taking all that deep audience understanding and we're turning that into a message that actually resonates. So as we go to ChatGPT, this is going to be the prompt that we're going to be using to create a 75-word cold email based on our previous mind map. So again, this is going to be in the description, but replace, the job titles for your ICP. So obviously director of marketing at a 10 to 50 size, SaaS company in USA who's focused on XYZ, replace that with your ideal client profile. And then when it comes to positioning your offer and then the case study and then the call to action, here's mine. But again, fill this in with your specific information. And then at the very bottom, we're going to be using this format that we talked about earlier, and then we're going to click enter. All right, so here's what we got so far. And again, guys, this is essentially just a high converting template based off of our audience understanding. The real magic is when we actually personalize this for every single prospect. So this is the foundation, and let's go into how to actually personalize this at scale. But honestly, if you guys did end up sending this cold email to your leads, I promise you it's going to convert better than 90% of cold emails. But really, we don't want just good results. We want breakthrough results. So let's go over how to actually do that. So for us to actually start personalizing at scale, we're going to need a strong lead list. So we're going to go over how to do that real quick. It's going to take around 1 to 2 minutes. So we're going to go over to linkedinsalesnavigator.com. Feel free to either use apollo.io or LinkedIn Sales Navigator. These are the two best databases that I found. And let's just say, for example, we are targeting these director of marketing and we are targeting them at around 10 to 50 or 11 to 50 employee size. And let's just say they're in the US. So now that we have this big lead list, this is going to be my ideal client profile for this video. But again, change the current job title with your job title, change the geography with whoever you want to target, and then of course change the company headcount, with the company headcount that you do target. But again, like I said earlier, we don't want to just batch up, founders, director of marketing, VP of sales, all company headcounts, all countries in the same campaign. We want to segment them. This is the best way to do that. So right here, we have around 23,000 results. I use a tool called Findymail.com to actually scrape these Sales Navigator results. What Findymail is going to do is not only going to scrape the Sales Navigator results, it is going to find the valid email of all of these leads, and then it is also going to give you a lot of strong information in the CSV. So I'm going to be using their Chrome extension. Let's just say, for example, I just wanted to grab 25 for this example, never click fast mode. And then let's just say for this example, let's say Director of Marketing, USA 10 to 50. And then here's my list. And then very easy, just click Export CSV right here. Again, this might take 5 or 10 minutes if you have a big list, but for me, it's probably going to take around 10 seconds. So here's what the CSV looks like from Findymail. It's going to give you all this information. And this is actually very important. This is going to be a job title match because sometimes LinkedIn Sales Navigator, if you're going after Director of Marketing, it might return, Director of Marketing Operations, Director of Sales and Marketing. This just makes sure that it's an exact match of your job title. It's going to normalize the company name, give you the company size. And then this is the best part. This is what I think, is very hidden, but it's also very, very useful for using ChatGPT. It's going to give you their LinkedIn summary, and then it is also going to give you their company description as well. This is absolute gold for personalization. And then of course, it is going to give you their email that is already validated. It's not just going to give you an email that might bounce. These emails are already validated as well. So this is going to be our CSV that we're going to push into ChatGPT so we can give you guys a strong example. All right, so as we go back to chatgpt.com, we're going to be pushing this new prompt inside. And then of course, this is going to be in the description. And then a very cool thing that we can do is we can actually upload the CSV that we just scraped, and we can push that into ChatGPT. And then as you do upload your CSV, here's the prompt that we're going to be using, and then just click go. ChatGPT is going to work its magic now. Let's wait a couple seconds and then see what the results look like. So here's a quick sample email. I'm not liking this so far. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in another prompt to essentially give them, research and personalization guidelines. And then I'm going to tell them, rewrite your emails. So these actually do look a lot better. This is very relevant and very personalized. If we can look at all these are actually code emails that I would send. So this is looking very good so far. And again, ChatGPT is not expensive at all. So now that we've kind of spot checked a couple emails randomly before actually getting it to push into the CSV, they all look good to go. So what we're going to say now is, hey, now I want you to add each of your emails in a column for each prospect in the CSV and then return the new CSV. This way, in your existing CSV, there's going to be a new column, and that is essentially going to be your script. All right, so here's a couple of examples, and what we're essentially going to do right now is we're going to spot check a couple of these cold emails to make sure that they're relevant, they're personalized, and they actually flow before we do start using this for the full amount of prospects in our CSV. So this looks good so far. These all seem very personalized. It all starts, with the problem. It all starts with the solution, with the social proof, and then the call to action. These all look pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to essentially tell ChatGPT to personalize the rest of the rows in our CSV. And real quick, guys, I'm going to give you the steps and all the prompts below in the description. I'm going to update them pretty frequently just to make sure that each of them are running smoothly for you guys. All right, so I essentially asked ChatGPT to just return 5 prospects because if you do 25 and if you do 200, it's going to take a couple of hours. I wanted to do this as fast as possible. So if we go to the CSV, I'm always going to go to the far right, and here's what the personalized emails are going to look like. So it's, hey, first name, a quick, compliment. Is it tough getting more demos booked for your platform without stretching your marketing team thin? We help companies like yours land 5+ qualified demos a month. We just helped, social proof. Can I send you the sales presentation, et cetera, et cetera. And another one could be this. We help financial services firms like yours. You see how personalized this is? If you want to make these cold emails better, and more relevant, just keep practicing and keep prompting inside of ChatGPT. I only did it for about 5 or 10 minutes. Typically, when I want to actually write copy, I do it for 3 or 4 hours. So again, if you think this copy looks good, send it. If you don't, then just keep prompting and keep optimizing your prompts and your scripts in ChatGPT. And then if we go back to our Instantly.ai campaign, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the leads section, go to add leads, and then upload your CSV. This is going to be mine right here, first 5. And then this is pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but just match these columns with the correct variables. I'm going to do this in 2 seconds. So this part right here is going to be your personalized cold email. So what I would recommend doing is selecting this whole text right here and clicking Command C. We're going to be putting this inside of the Instantly.ai message. So just put this as a custom variable, and then from here, just click Upload All. And then when we actually do get to these sequences, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to click Shift, and then click these little brackets right here, and then click Command V. What this is going to do is it's going to take over the personalized email, and then you're going to want to close the brackets. And if we did this correctly, we're going to click Preview Email, and then we're going to actually look at the email. So as of right now, it does look like there is a little bit of a formatting issue, and then also, the actual formatting and the normalization and the company name not being normalized. That's not that big of a deal. But again, if you do want that to be solved, a very quick solution is, again, going back to the prompts. Looking at your actual email, doing a little quality assurance check, and then saying, hey, ChatGPT, can you please normalize the company name? It is this column in my CSV. And then you can say, hey, can you format this better? So there's a lot more spaces and it's a lot easier to read. Again, I did this in about 5 minutes. What I would recommend you guys doing is spending a couple hours doing this, because you're actually sending real campaigns. This is just an example. I hope this was very helpful. And I've seen this firsthand. When you implement a complete system like this, you can expect a minimum reply rate of around 3 to 4%. With many campaigns of yours, because they're so segmented and personalized, they're going to be around a 5 to 10% reply rate, or even higher. That's around 20 to 90% positive replies out of 1,000 cold emails sent every single day. And again, that's potentially hundreds of qualified leads every single week you can pass to your sales team, all from a system that realistically runs on autopilot, without you having to lift a finger once the foundations are set up. So if you want to get started with a system like this, click the link in the description below for tools like Findymail for verifying your emails, tools like ChatGPT 4.0 for personalizing your cold emails, and then SOPs to actually set up your email accounts, and then your prompts as well. Set this up once and let it run every single day. Hit subscribe if you guys found this useful, and drop a comment if you have any questions. I'll see you in the next one.